1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Hours after a jury convicted a Colorado dentist of murdering his wife, a judge sentenced James Craig to life in prison. Craig was found guilty of poisoning his wife's protein drinks. Former Colorado state prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Eric Fedis.
So the Colorado does not functionally have the death penalty. So this was the most severe sentence that could possibly be imposed.
The investigation into the New York City office shooting continues, with NYPD detectives traveling to Las Vegas, where 27-year-old Shane Tamura lived and worked. Law enforcement sources say they searched Tamura's apartment and found what was described to ABC News as a suicide note to his mom, saying he loves her and he's sorry. The shooter killed 4 people, including an NYPD officer. Authorities are looking into whether he was targeting the NFL headquarters. The Federal Reserve moving to keep interest rates unchanged for now due to continued uncertainty over tariffs. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the overall economy remains stable. This is ABC News. In Colorado, a jury has convicted Dennis James Craig in the murder of his wife, Angela, in 2023. Craig found guilty of poisoning his wife's protein drinks with cyanide and an ingredient found in eye drops. The defense claimed Craig's cheating led to his wife, Angela, being suicidal and argued that James assisted her in her suicide. ABC's Alex Stone has more.
The claim being he wanted to get rid of her for this orthodontist who he was having a relationship with. His side even admitted that in their 23 years of marriage, he and Angela Craig, that he had been unfaithful numerous times, multiple times a year, and that this wasn't anything different. They claimed this woman was just like all the other women, and he didn't kill his wife for the other women, so he wouldn't have done it for this woman, where the prosecution said he did kill for her. That's why he committed murder.
Craig was sentenced to life in prison. In Nebraska, a father and his 2 daughters were killed in a large explosion at Horizon Biofuels in Fremont earlier today. The cause under investigation. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Are you over 50 and constantly feeling tired, bloated, or just a little off? Don't ignore it. Those could be signs that your liver is crying for help. As we age, our liver, which is essential for metabolism, digestion, immunity, and detoxification, needs extra support and protection. If neglected, it can leave you feeling sluggish and constantly off your game. That's where Active Liver from New Nordic comes in. Available in easy-to-take tablets or delicious gummies, Active Liver combines powerful natural ingredients like turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract to help support healthy liver function. With Active Liver, you're giving your body an essential daily defense against toxins from alcohol, fatty foods, and sweets, helping you reclaim your energy, improve digestion, lose the bloat, and strengthen your immunity so you can look and feel your best again. Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day. The Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Gordon.
Well, hello, gentlemen. Welcome back to our audience tonight. It's Common Sense Conservatives Wednesday night, 30 July 2025. And we're just hours away from the President Trump's tariff regime taking effect around the world. With my co-host in East Tennessee, it's retired Sergeant First Class Todd McKinley. Todd, how are you?
Hey, Colonel, how are you? Doing really well tonight. Looking forward to our guest.
Absolutely. You guys kind of caught me off guard there. So we'll get to that in just a moment there. John up in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. John, how are things up that way?
Doing the same as always. Apparently Governor Wyatt is massing up New Hampshire, according to some. Apparently she's signing bills. As you know, she used to be a board member of Blackstone, and now she has signed a bill that no city or town within the state of New Hampshire can have a single family neighborhood. They have to be all open up to multifamilies and stuff. Yeah, you figure somebody who's invested into real estate and board of Blackstone would do such a thing.
Right.
Isn't she supposed to be a Republican?
I thought.
It sounds a
Yeah.
very not
Yeah.
conservative approach to
Sounds
things.
sounds more like a corporatist than a conservative, I think.
Yeah. She, this is what we were trying to warn folks of about voting for her, and that's why we had Dick Morris here on this show, and not trying to rub it into folks, but she was doing some pretty good things, though. I do admit. I mean, at the beginning, she was signing some really nice bills, but this one here took a lot of people off guard. They're like, okay, there it is. That's what we're afraid of, and so.
Well, it's a little paid attention to reality is that government's intruding in our lives. I can give a perfect example of this here. The neighborhood that I'm in was built, I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that. And each house in the suburban area has its own mailbox, and the postal service comes and drops mail. However, the people who've bought houses in a development that just started several months ago in what used to be a horse pasture adjacent to this, they are paying for houses that cost 60% more than we paid for our houses 10, 12 years ago, smaller than our houses, and like beggars living in a welfare housing complex. And people, I'm not making fun of those places, I grew up in them, but like beggars in a welfare housing complex, they have to go walk through the snow and the blistering heat to one location in the entire neighborhood to collect their mail from communal boxes. Outdoors. Now, that's because the federal government intruded into how we build our homes and what we do. And this is just utter nonsense, folks. Utter nonsense.
It is. Makes it convenient for the mailman, but not so much for the homeowner. Who's licking the stamp, by the way.
All right.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm just a little thrown off here. Go ahead, Todd.
No, so yeah, just that is kind of interesting. It reminds me of Seinfeld, though. Whenever George Costanza had those wedding invitations, they kept licking the toxic envelopes and stuff. It reminds me of that.
Yeah,
I don't know why that pops into my mind.
They had some funny stuff. It was kind of like, they picked things out in real life. They made observation comedy and stuff. They used to see people on the streets. There's people trying to sue that show because they're like, hey, that was me. I was that character,
Sure. All right. A lot of people are.
Yeah, right.
Just a quick thing here for you, John, unrelated to the multiple feeds of this, getting it out to our content. This is not running on my YouTube channel, even though it was set up.
I saw you had it set up. I don't know, Chris. On my end, I can't do anything. I know you had it all paired up and ready to go, and why it's not connecting, I don't know.
That's very odd. It didn't give me any message that it would be a problem. Let me just take a look while we're at this, folks. If it's on Twitter, let me see if it's running on Twitter. That's very strange. It's not had this problem previously.
Twitter,
Twitter. Is it running on Twitter? It is running on Twitter, but it's not running on YouTube. Very strange. Odd. Anyway, don't know what's going on there, folks, but we've got an audience over there, so we apologize to that audience but it's not running. Is it running on your YouTube channel, John?
I'm checking now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's quite odd. Todd, we do have a guest tonight. Anything you tell us about that, or is that up to John?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have Gina Harjani. I guess she'll be on here in just a second as soon as John brings her in.
I'll bring her in right now.
She is the most recent national winner of the American Legion Oratorical Championship, an annual competition. It's a scholarship competition, a speech competition, etc. Gives thousands of dollars to young kids every year looking to go to college, and she did an exceptional job. But she's going to be here talking about maybe that a little bit, but her Accept initiative, and I'm going to let her explain a little bit more about the Accept initiative. And there she is. Gina, welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives. Glad you're here. Thank you very much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into what the Accept initiative is.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I'm very excited. So as Mr. Todd just said, I recently won the American Legion National Oratorical Contest. It's a speech contest that allows students to talk about the Constitution and their aspects on it. So my topic for the competition was the Constitution in the digital age. So I talked about how we interpret the Constitution today as we face challenges of artificial intelligence and algorithms, which are very current topics that we discussed today. I mean, it's on the news, very current topic. And so I had founded this topic for my speech, and it was a new topic that a lot of people maybe hadn't talked about before in the competition, and I realized that it was something that a lot of people maybe did in their everyday lives they didn't realize in terms of using social media and using our phones. So after creating this sort of platform through the American Legion Oratorical Contest, I decided to take the platform forward and create an accept initiative. So going into kind of the process of accept, the competition requires students to talk on some aspect of the Constitution. So I decided to talk about the current challenges of artificial intelligence and algorithms, as I said. And so in my speech, I had talked about how sometimes we click accept or yes without reading the terms and conditions on our phone. So kind of going off of that, I created the ACCEPT initiative, which stands for Advocacy for Constitutional, Civic, and Ethical Protection in Technology, to protect citizens from the rising digital threats through digital literacy, privacy awareness, AI ethics, and most importantly, preserving our constitutional rights.
Absolutely, very, very important. And I'd like to turn over to the Colonel. He's got a lot of questions, and then he's gonna grill you. Okay.
Yeah,
No, no, I told you it was gonna be softball. These are very easy, but they're gonna be well thought out questions. I'll turn it over to the Colonel real quick.
Yeah, no need to be concerned there, Gina. To be rather simple, straightforward questions. Where did your interest in civics arise from? Is it something your parents instilled in you, or you just picked up on your own?
Well, I've had a passion for public speaking since a very young age. I think that's something that my parents instilled in me. They've always had a camera on my face. They've always made me speak in public. So I wanted to do something with public speaking, and then I found the American Legion Oratorical Contest, and that kind of got me interested in more into law, and I wanted to pursue a career in law. And I had gone to Girls State, which is through the American Legion Auxiliary, that allows students to develop their civic knowledge and become informed citizens. So I think a lot of programs that I've done through the American Legion and participating in them has kind of allowed me to delve more into the Constitution and being an informed citizen. And I realized that there are a lot of aspects and issues that I'm interested in. And I think that that kind of, especially artificial intelligence being such a current topic, kind of allowed me to grow more on that and to focus on that, especially in my speech. And now with the ACCEPT initiative, trying to bring more awareness to that.
Well, Ginny, you'll forgive me if I'll step back for a second when you say, since I was from a young age, you're not exactly 40 or 50.
I guess yeah, I'm only I like to say a new adult. I'm just 18, so
Okay.
just from when I was a little kid.
Okay, that's helpful. So it's been probably at least a decade that you've had this awareness.
Well, I think I like to say that I'm still learning, but you know, I've really wanted to go more into depth on it now that I've been able to do more research on it through the American Legion oratorical contests and stuff. But public speaking has been there since I was very young.
Okay, so you're not afraid to get out in front of folks.
I try and I think maybe I mask it well. I would say I think I get a little nervous every time, but I think I figured out kind of how to overcome that fear a little.
Well, I appreciate your interest in AI. I'm not a fan of Skynet. I want to keep it from happening. It's just saying, I've seen that Terminator future, and it doesn't look very promising.
Right.
But that said, I do like to make AI music, all sorts of genres. I generate songs. But so your concerns about AI, what drove that? I mean, you mentioned not necessarily AI, but you talked about privacy there when you were talking about how people, and you say sometimes, I would say that 99.9% of the time,
Right.
people don't read the terms, conditions of things they sign up for. So what got your attention? Was it the privacy concerns, or did you watch one too many Terminator movies?
I think the main thing I would say before writing the speech, I myself did not know that much about artificial intelligence. And like I said, I'm still learning because I think artificial intelligence is there's a lot of depth in it. It's a very broad topic. It's hard to learn everything about it. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. But I think what really drew me to it was that it's so prevalent now in our lives. I say to my mom, I was born in 2007. That's when the first iPhone came out. You know, so I've always known a world where there's technology that is so easily accessible to us. But the issue that most people don't realize, which is why in my speech I had said, you might not realize what you're signing away whenever you click yes or accept, because there are so many things every day that are so common that we might not realize the negative effects that they have. For example, I focus a lot on privacy in my speech and as well now for the Accept initiative, because now with everything going online, our data is online. There are so many things that are now transitioning to online platforms that while in some ways AI is beneficial in helping and in making things easier, it's also important to address the issues that may not be in the light as much and to bring awareness to that and make sure that us as citizens understand that side of artificial intelligence as well.
Well, you mentioned artificial intelligence, concern about that, and I appreciate that concern. And I think you probably realize this, you sort of alluded to it. The concern is larger than that. I mean, the interconnectedness of everything. You know, it's possible, if you know what you're doing, to shut down an entire power grid in a country. It's
Right.
possible to undermine a stock market and cause fictitious trades to disrupt and lose trust and confidence. And I think that's an aspect that a lot of people don't really realize. Maybe Gina, you do, and if it's something you've thought about, you could elaborate on that. But I mean, one thing that really is important here that people don't appreciate is just the trust that's inherent with something as simple as using your credit card, something as simple as cashing a check or getting money from an ATM. That entire system and the confidence that could be shaken overnight by a malicious actor, never mind AI, but just by a malicious actor. Is that something that concerns you or have you thought about as well?
Yes, it is. I myself actually just yesterday, I had received a text in the morning claiming to be from Tennessee's DMV that I had to owe money for a traffic violation or something for like a toll. And I mean, after doing research on it, I've been able to have a sense of awareness of, what's not real and what's a scam. But even myself knowing that, for a second when I got that text, I was like, did I actually have a traffic violation that I had to pay for? So I mean, it's something that affects us every day. I mean, there are so many different stories that you'll hear where people are targeted for like deep fakes or for certain scams and stuff. And the thing is people maybe aren't well informed and they don't know how to handle that or they don't know how to tell. So that's the main thing with Accept is kind of bringing that digital literacy and cybersecurity to the public so that they understand how to tackle these threats that the digital technology can lead to.
Well, you talk about these threats, Gina, and I see that, and you make a very good point. Even very astute people, when they're caught off guard or they're busy or something is done particularly well, may be inadvertently misled or hoodwinked by artificial intelligence or by scamsters. But I'm guessing, Gina, that you've never fallen for a Nigerian prince.
No, no.
Are you familiar with that scam? That's kind of old school now. That was kind of an amateur thing for years.
Yes, I have heard about it.
So, Gina, are you in high school, finishing high school? Are you off to university? Where are you at in your stage in life?
I just graduated high school in May, and actually just here in 2 weeks, I'll be heading off to Vanderbilt for my freshman year.
Whoa,
She was
Vanderbilt.
number one in her class, by the way, accepted in Notre Dame. Then all of a sudden got offered a shot to go to Vanderbilt in state. So she's like, I'll go to Vanderbilt versus Notre Dame. So I don't know which one's better there. I guess it's a dealer's choice, right?
Well, for me, it was ended up giving me full tuition, so that was an offer I guess I couldn't really.
Smart. You couldn't refuse.
They made her an
Yes.
offer she couldn't refuse, man.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd rather be at Vanderbilt than South Bend anyway. I'm just saying, if that's me, that'd be my personal choice. I think that's a good choice. Look at Todd's obviously very proud of that because it's in Tennessee, but
Yeah.
it's I think it's an easy choice and good luck. And what's your field of study going to be?
I'm going to be doing communications of science and technology. So I want to take the Accept initiative and maybe work on it at Vanderbilt as well. I know they have a big technology department. They do a lot with national security. So Accept is at its early stages, but I'm trying to develop it and maybe work on it more when I head off to Vanderbilt.
I'm starting to feel like a bit of a dinosaur here, Todd. I mean, as after Alice University, they came up with unusual things like women's studies and queer studies and things like that. But now we have digital science, technology, communications degrees. I mean, this is going to be so specialized that we're going to be talking about degrees in positive and negative neurons. I mean, that's where we're going to be eventually. I mean, there's so many different fields that kids can study now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. So, Gina, how do you think the Accept initiative would help protect veterans and youth, and why is it important at this point in life?
I think that the Accept initiative is very important today, especially because, I mean, like I said, this is an issue that we're dealing with every day. I mean, every time I turn on the news, there's something going on about artificial intelligence or something going on about how it's developing and stuff. So, I focus a lot on veterans and youth because I feel like those are two groups that are very vulnerable to these threats. Youth, especially because speaking as a youth and teenager myself, I mean, teenagers use cell phones all the time and they're immersed in technology. And I think that it's important to make sure that our upcoming generations are aware and well versed in this new sort of resource that we have. And Accept is important, especially now, because our constitutional rights, in my opinion, are somewhat being eroded as we advance with this technology and we live it. And that's something that I don't think any American, I would say, would ever want, because those are our rights that people have fought and died to protect. And Accept tries to bring awareness to that and bring an education to the people because, for example, our freedom of speech is being impacted by these opaque algorithms, and our privacy is being harmed by this data that is being collected on us. So Accept really is just a kind of way to allow our constitutional rights to not be forfeited. And the thing is that a lot of states have started to address these issues and they've started to have laws and they've started to do various acts in different states, but there's no actual federal law or mandate or act to kind of address this issue as a whole. It's very fragmented, it's very incomplete. So Accept is an initiative to kind of make it where all citizens see this and are aware of what's going on and the threats of it.
Absolutely. So we talk about freedom of speech on here on a regular basis, and privacy for sure. But how does AI put people's privacy and freedom of speech at risk?
Right. So, like I said, algorithms, like on social media, for example, they can alter the way that who you hear or how you're heard. I say that in my speech a lot because I focus on the First Amendment for a part of my speech and how these algorithms can manipulate public discourse and make it to where you hear things that or create digital discrimination. And along with free speech, these algorithms can also manipulate these young citizens into things that are more on the darker side. For example, there are cases where they have led kids to suicide, or harmful sort of things. And I know, Mr. Todd, you've done a lot of research on suicide, especially with veterans as well. So kind of just seeing all of this, like these cases that have really been linked to artificial intelligence. And I don't know if you could expand a little bit more on veteran suicide as well.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah. And I've seen in the past where, kids get bullied online, if you will, or even AI situation where people implemented AI, did videos of people that aren't real. And then basically they were driven to commit suicide. I've seen that before, for sure. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that comes up here, of course, is we hear the phrase when you've mentioned it there, Gina, is that this concept of deep fakes. but I mean, I think deep fakes is going to be a misnomer. They're wide open, right in our face fakes at this point. They're becoming so sophisticated. Just a year ago, you'd watch someone take Barack Obama and have him say something and his lips moving and it wasn't in sync. Today, software can render that so that it looks very convincing. It looks very genuine. I think this is a very serious concern when it comes to trust. You're going to have people fake celebrities. You're going to have people fake politicians, and they'll say something, and people are gullible, especially online. A lot of people don't realize garbage in, garbage out, and I think that's rather important. Sounds like you're on board with that, Gina. Not in favor of it, but you understand it.
Well, I actually have experienced this myself. In high school, I had a marketing class where I had to make an ad, and I was trying to make it a little more realistic. So I had found an app that allowed you to use celebrity voiceovers. So I had used Snoop Dogg to do a voice my ad, and when I presented to school, I mean, by lunchtime, I was like a celebrity. Everybody was like, "She knows Snoop Dogg," like the ad was and at the time I was like, this is so cool that it works. But now doing Accept and kind of doing a lot more research on it, you're right. People are so gullible. I mean, my own teachers, my classmates, they were fully convinced that what I had done was real. And it's getting to the point, like you said, where it's kind of hard to tell the difference. And I mean, this technology is so readily available to us. Like I said, I mean, it was just a simple app that put the text came. It's hard.
Your microphone is dropping in and out there, Gina. I don't know if you got any adjustments on that or not, or if it's just a audio thing on your computer.
It was cutting out a little bit initially, but now it's cutting out a lot.
Right, a little bit there.
Sometimes these things happen if you're using Google. They'll take over your microphone volume.
Okay, John, just be honest. It's because it's not really Gina, it's AI.
It's AI.
It probably.
Oh, she dropped off, so she probably didn't catch that.
Yeah, so she'll be back in a second.
We'll give her a second to come back. Yeah, there she is.
Is it
no,
back? All right.
That's better. No, did you hear what I said, Gina? I said, let's be honest. The problem is it's not Gina, it's AI.
Yeah, it's AI, Gina. No.
Just for the record, I was blaming Gina. I was blaming
digital technology.
She does have a couple AIs in her name. They're in different orders, though. But yeah, I'm wondering.
She has an army of bot followers there. So, but no, Gina, I mean that's a fair point, and that thank you for the anecdotal story of exactly a situation how people can be just so blown away. The only defense to this that I can see is either people actively addressing the concern of AI and fakes. That would be one thing, like a coterie, an army of people out there who look at these things and go, wait a second, that's not real. Here's why. We've looked at it. We've looked at the forensics. This isn't real. And the other thing I think that needs to happen is that people just need to be more aware. I mean, it's astounding to me how gullible people are. I deal with this every day as a journalist, where people in South Africa in particular, they send me this thing. Did you see who said this? And okay, first off, I don't have to go any further. The whole concept of what you're telling me is implausible. No one would ever say or do that, especially the person you're talking about. Now, next thing, okay, notice this, notice that. But I mean, that's a very discerning person. But even as we said, Gina, even smart people like yourself, and I like to include myself in that boat as a smart person that's aware of these things, sometimes find ourselves gullible for it. So it sounds to me like a very serious threat to civil society in many respects.
Yes, definitely. It definitely is. And that's kind of why, because doing the oratorical contest, people would come up to me after and they would say, you've addressed a topic that, maybe we hadn't really thought about before, but it's actually, it's very relevant to our everyday lives. And I wanted to use that platform and start Accept, because I think that this is an issue that really needs to be addressed, so that we are making sure that our citizens don't fall prey to this technology.
I think it's very important. Folks, you're listening to Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN, and you can catch us, as Todd likes to say, on the interwebs on many platforms, although tonight, not on my YouTube channel because it didn't launch. I looked at the studio while she was looking at her microphone there, and it's playing on X, but not playing on my YouTube channel. But you can catch us all over the internet. You can also go to WSMN and check us out there. We're on every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Common Sense Conservatives consists of a team of Todd McKinley in East Tennessee, John Grosvenor at a studio in Nashua, New Hampshire, and myself, Chris Wyatt, here in Central Pennsylvania. Until last night, I was in Alabama. Now I'm back in Central Pennsylvania, and I'm glad that the humidity is only 85%, not 10,000% as it was in Alabama. My goodness, brutal down there. I don't understand why people move there, but that's on them, not on me.
Gina, is that why you're wearing a sweatshirt there, Chris? It's so cold to you now being up in Pennsylvania.
It's because I turned the air conditioner down to 60 degrees in my house, and it is 60 degrees now.
I almost wore a sweatshirt tonight too, John, because it is chilly and we have storms rolling through. So yeah, the temperatures drop big time here.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Tennessee is actually, it's a lot more pleasant than it can be a bit further south there. So Gina, okay, unrelated to the topic, let's shift a little bit here. Did you grow up there in Tennessee? Is that where you spent your childhood, or were you like me, a nomad living all over the country? And if so, what's it like?
I'm from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, small little tourist town, and I've born and raised in Tennessee.
You hear it now, don't you?
Yeah, it's coming out now. She was using that. She was using that fake Midwestern accent for the first portion of the program.
It slips a little. Country accent slips a little. And then, I'm fortunate, I'd say, to be able to continue my education in Tennessee, going to Vanderbilt. So, I love Tennessee. I said whenever I enrolled in Vanderbilt that I'm glad that I get to keep my boots when I go to college.
There you go. Well, that raised a question, Gina. I think it's interesting. Have you ever been out of the country? Have you been to like some crazy place like North Carolina or Kentucky? You ever been out of the country?
Actually, I've been fortunate to be a big traveler. My parents have taken me all over the world. I think one time I counted maybe around 30 countries that I've been to. So I'm an avid traveler, I guess you could say. But I enjoy traveling a lot because being from a small town, it gives you a bigger perspective on the world, and it really shows a lot of different places, and I love traveling so much.
Well, that's a good appreciation for getting around. I myself have been around 80 countries and lived in 16, so I can appreciate what you're talking about there. What's a lesson? It's early in life for you, but what's a lesson or maybe something interesting you learned about being somewhere overseas that really just sticks with you?
I think it's really helped me see just the tiny little spot that I'm in compared to this huge world. And it's so important to see how people are living, maybe even on the other side of Tennessee. There's so many different types of situations that people are living in, or different conditions that people are living in. So I think it's really important to see that and to understand that, especially I think at an early age, that it's important to understand that. It gives you a different perspective on the world, and honestly, it makes me grateful to live in this country and to have the.
So Gina, are you an outlier, or a lot of kids your age? Sorry to use the term kids, but I'm over 30, so I can say that. But are a lot of kids your age, are they civically interested, or is, because my experience has been that we've had a gap here of a couple of decades where young Americans have sort of lost touch with civics, and then they have these outrageous demands. And for me, it became pretty evident. I'm sorry to say this, but it would be before you were born with 9/11. So after 9/11, we had an awful lot of people that didn't say, actually before that, George Bush and Al Gore's election of 2000, had a lot of people running around going, but Al Gore got more votes. And I'm like, but that isn't germane. You have to understand how the electoral college system works. So my question is the folks around you that you went to school with, and maybe off to Vanderbilt this fall, so you have a different view on that. Are they civically interested, or is it just a few outliers like you?
Well, I had done research for my topic for the speech competition, and one of the statistics that I had said in my speech was that only 22% of 8th graders were proficient in civics. So that means that less than 1 in 4 teenagers fully understand the principles of American democracy. So in a way, I would say that a lot of students my age aren't. We have history classes and stuff, but they aren't really aware about their rights. And that's kind of the dangers with technology. That's what Accept focuses on, is making sure that we know our constitutional rights, because you know, it's very important as citizens to be well informed, but we're losing touch, in my opinion, on the rights that we have. So as AI and technology and digital technology continues to grow, we have to keep in mind that we still have these rights. So, and I would say that I wish that our students were more well informed on their civics. And I know that there are maybe around 21 states that have digital citizenship as a class. And President Trump has recently done an executive order where he wants artificial intelligence and civics to be more prevalent in classes. And I think that that's very important because, like I said, as we continue on with technology, we still need to make sure that we have our rights and our um, constitutional protections.
Well, you talk a lot about rights there, Gina, of course, and I assume that you also, it's inherent in your mindset that as citizens we have responsibilities, and that's why you also need to know civics.
Yes, definitely.
So, when you get to campus this fall, is this an activity you're going to continue working with Accept? Is this something you're going to push?
I do hope to continue it. I've recently just started to build this platform. I've been working with the American Legion because I feel like the American Legion already has so much trust, so much outreach to the youth through its Americanism program, such as Girls and Boys State, oratorical contests, and then as well as the veterans. So I've been using the American Legion, and then I hope to go on to Vanderbilt and use my major and use the different platforms that they have there to continue this and to make it a bigger outreach and kind of really grow the initiative. Because I do think, like I said, I'm very passionate about it, and I think that it really needs to have that awareness, especially in today's age, where it's such a current topic.
So, where do we go from here? Is it something that will require funding or just people's involvement? Is it going to something's moving there? Is it going to involve? Do you need funding for it? Is it just going to involve volunteers, or does it need a digital platform? Wouldn't that be ironic? Of course, we're talking about artificial intelligence, a digital platform.
Yes, so like I said, I think the American Legion is a big part of expanding Accept. I know that they already have like a platform allow that aspect to go into those as well, and reaching out to the people that they already have involved in it would be very beneficial. I've been trying to work with people in Tennessee legislature and in Tennessee government to kind of bring a bigger outreach to that as well. So I think that I want to bring it onto digital platforms as well, put it on websites, have easy access to this digital literacy and this education of what the harms are and how to handle that. So I think really using the American Legion's platform, as well as having a digital outreach would really allow us to be able to connect to a lot of people in a broader aspect.
So this would raise a question I think is probably a lot of people are interested in. What are your parents' thoughts on this? Have they been supportive? I imagine that they are. I mean, I see a wry smile on your face there. Do your parents think you're nuts? Do they think it's a good idea?
Well, actually, when I had first come up with the topic for my speech for doing the Constitution in the Digital Age, they were worried. They were concerned as to would people understand like what I was trying to explain? Would they take it the right way? Would they kind of understand what I was talking about? And it ended up working out for the best, but even I myself, up until nationals, I think I would ask people in the American Legion, is this a good topic? Like, do you think that it would work and stuff? So, a little hesitant at first speech-wise, but I think after I started to research a little bit more and learn more about it, they've been nothing but supportive. They've helped me way. We'll discuss all the current things that are going on with AI and artificial intelligence technology. And, we'll talk about current issues. Like today we were watching President Trump talk about bringing healthcare into digital technology, which is such a big thing that can help all citizens and help veterans even, especially by moving all of that onto a digital platform. And then we would lead into how that's also a fear because, now all of our data is online, that can be, a breach of privacy if it's used the wrong way, So they've been nothing but supportive, and they've really allowed me to have a way to discuss and with them and kind of learn more. We all learn from each other. So it's I've got a good supportive base behind me.
Oh, that's pretty good to hear. You talk about the security aspect. Over 21 million veterans and active duty military have had their personal details compromised by the Office of Personnel Management multiple times, leaving the back door open unintentionally to the database. I know Todd's gotten a letter. I've gotten 3 letters telling me that Mr. Fuji is going to come knock on my door one day and ask me to reveal secrets, or he's going to expose the fact that I'm very fond of the color purple. I'm not sure how that would be a threat, but anyway, so I mean that's out there. That's a very real concern when it comes to privacy, as you said. But it's Gina. Here's not a pushback at you, but just to kind of throw this out there. Digital's fantastic. I'm an early adopter. I've been doing computers since the 70s when I was a little kid, and I use it extensively. But it's also not a be all to end all. For instance, I had to get an X-ray on my hip, and that was fantastic. And it's done digitally, a lot different than it used to be in the old day. That data was transmitted to Walter Reed Hospital right after they finished taking the film. And within a couple hours, the X-ray technician had reviewed it, made their evaluation, sent it back. But the long pole in the tent, Gina, is that there's only 3 doctors at my clinic instead of the 8 that they're authorized originally. So I have to wait almost a month to have a telephonic return call to discuss whether I've got a hip problem or it's just all in my head. So, I mean, the thing there, I guess the point being is that digital is what we make it, isn't it?
Right. And I think we're to the point where we're trying to use digital technology in so many aspects of our lives. I mean, I hate to say it, but students are now using AI for their homework and stuff, but there are a lot of benefits to it, that your X-ray stuff, kind of helping people with their healthcare through artificial intelligence, but also just making sure that you understand the harms that come with it too. And I think most importantly is making sure that us as citizens use it the right way. And I think if we use AI beneficially, I mean, it's great, but also just making sure that we're not using it for the
well, there's a couple points there that you tease out, and I'll say one as having been a university professor grading papers. I do not like people using artificial intelligence for their research or using crutches or paper mills and stuff like that. That's academically dishonest. But I will say this: at least it's not as painful to read many of these papers because they're at least legible and literate by the computers, unlike some of the students themselves. But I mean, that raises a whole other question. We've got an awful lot of people who aren't thinking for themselves, Gina. They're letting computers do the thinking for them. And if that's how they start out life in their academic career, gosh, what kind of people, what kind of leaders will they be when they get older in life? And if the battery's dead on their cell phone and if the generator's out, will they be able to lead? I mean, that's a real fear, don't you think?
Right. Yes. I know I've heard a lot of people say that they're worried about, my generation or future generations. Like, they'll go to the extreme about like leaving the world in our hands and, how we're going to maintain it and stuff. And, I mean, I see their point, but I also want to say, don't give up on our generation. And I think accept is kind of a way to make sure that our students, future generations aren't doing that to make sure they aren't vulnerable to all of this digital technology, and like you said, kind of just not using their brain and just using the technology. So I think that by having that digital literacy and by using it in a beneficial way and the right way where we're using it for the good, I think our generation can take it to where we are using it for the better, but also where we're still making sure that it's not overtaking us as citizens,
Well, you talked a little bit about research, so I want to delve into that just briefly here. Is in my day, and I don't want to sound like an old fossil here, but I mean, the Dewey Decimal System and going through LexisNexis on a computer, searching for things, going through periodical indexes, and all of those things. Those were key ways of doing, of course, primary research, looking for original documents, and then secondary research, and tertiary research, books and magazines published. All those things contribute. But in the digital age, a lot of that becomes much easier in some respects because you can get it at your fingertips. You don't have to go to a library. You don't have to dig this stuff out from somewhere. So it makes it easier in that respect, but also you got to be careful about, as we said before, garbage in, garbage out, what's real. So when you did your research, what sort of research did you do? Did you have in-person interviews to talk to people? Did you talk to experts? Did you rely on Google or DuckDuckGo searches? Did you go to periodicals? What kind of research did you do? Because I'm just curious to find out how you went about finding information to reach conclusions that you reached for this interesting project.
Right. So a lot of the research that I had done was started off for the speech and kind of building that speech to give. So a lot of my research came from, like, for example, Tennessee.gov would have information on what they were doing and what issues that they were addressing whenever they were creating these different acts. For example, Tennessee has various acts that they've done for addressing the issues of deep fakes, information privacy acts and stuff. So I would use the research that they have done on government websites and use that information and the statistics that they had provided to address in my speech. And I'd also researched various cases that where AI had been used maybe in a negative way. For example, I talked about a girl who had encountered harmful algorithms and eventually led to suicide. And I also talked about, for example, the Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened with Facebook. So I used a lot of issues that people maybe knew about, for example, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and also actual cases as evidence to kind of back up what I was saying. So from seeing what other people were saying about it.
Gina, I think the issue with your microphone is when you lean back, it seems to lose it. So we lost so much
Okay.
there. So yeah, when you're up close, no, that's okay. But you lean back there. I prefer that you're comfortable when you chat, but when you lean back, you just kind of faded off. I don't know if you're using Bluetooth with a range of half a foot or what's going on there, but it just kind of lost you there. So we got you back. So let me ask you this question. It seems like you have an appreciation for being discerning and thinking for yourself, and I would hope I'm getting the impression that you're a critical thinker. For everyone in the audience, not a critic, but a critical thinker. There's a clear distinction there. We can all say bad things and be unhappy about something, but being a critical thinker, someone who looks at the motivations, looks at why things are being said or why people are presenting arguments. If that's the case in your situation, which I suspect it is, how did you come about that kind of mindset? Is it something that you learned in school? Was it fostered by teachers, or your parents have a big role in that? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe faith. I don't know if your faith plays a role. But how did you get to the point where you thought critically and you try to be a discerning person? Because I get the impression you are that. If I'm wrong, if you're just, if you're winging it, let me know. But it doesn't seem like you're winging it.
Well, I think maybe my parents have instilled that in me to think for myself. I say that, because I'm an only child, I like to be able to protect myself and be able to talk about things. So I've been able to, being an only child, I've been able to really converse with my parents on different things and have that sort of connection with them, maybe bigger than a parent level and more as like a friend or just one of them. So I think they've really encouraged me to speak knowing what I'm talking about and in a matter where I understand what I'm saying before I speak. So I think that's helped a lot with critical thinking. And I like to, if I don't know something, that to go and do research on it. For example, still while I'm starting this AI platform, this Accept platform, just doing research and learning more about it, because like I said, it's such a deep topic that it's kind of hard. I feel like people who are working in AI now maybe struggle trying to understand the gravity. So I think critical being confident in what you're saying and understanding what you're trying to say and the message that you're trying to give.
Well, Gina, it's just a matter of weeks before you head off to the Vanderbilt campus. There's going to be distractions there. You're going to have, I don't know if a sorority thing is something you're interested in. I don't know if you're interested in guys or gals, but both will be a distraction one way or another. I don't know if you're into sports or into all those things, but you're going to find once you get to campus, no matter how focused you are on life, there's a lot of stray voltage that's coming your way. And it's going to stay difficult to stay focused. Have you thought about that? And, because it sounds like accept is important to you and you don't want to see it die on the vine. So you're going to have to make, I think, a concerted effort to stay engaged with it and to keep it moving and keep that ball moving down the field. As I like to say about in football, matriculating down the field, since you're going to matriculate into university. Have you thought about this at all? Or are you just excited to go to college? Which is it? Or is it both?
I think I would say it's a little bit of both, but I mean, my parents give me lectures about it all the time. They're saying, we're not going to be there with you anymore. You're going to have to learn how to, time manage, do things on your own now. We're not going to be sitting, behind you, making sure that you're doing everything. So, I'm excited to go to college and stuff, but like you said, I do want to keep accept and to work on it a lot more. So I'm fortunate to be able to go to the national convention for American Legion, and I'll get to talk about accept there. So that'll be later on this in August, and then do more talking about accept later on semesters. So hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit of both. I still want to be involved in Vanderbilt, join clubs and make friends and do all sorts of things there and get the college experience. But, also keeping in mind, what I want to do in the future, which is accept and going into law and going into privacy and digital security.
Well, Gina, if you're interested in a little advice, you don't have to take it, but just some free advice.
Oh,
A lot of people, they look at university and they knuckle down and they focus entirely on their studies and they try to get through and get great grades and learn and achieve and move on. And that's great. That's a wonderful thing. And other people, they think they're at Animal House and that they're supposed to be carousing and boozing and drinking and partying the whole time. It's somewhere in the middle that's the happy medium that makes the best college experience. I can tell you from personal experience, because I've been going to university my entire life. I just finished another program last year with University of Michigan, or Michigan State, excuse me. Sorry, Spartans. It's Michigan State University. Not Wolverines, Michigan State. Yeah, but also done multiple degrees, undergraduate, postgraduate. But the single probably most important period in my life and development, and I hope that's the same for you, is my experience on campus and going to campus, because the interaction with other people, you're becoming an adult, your maturation process, you're on your own. You have to make, as your parents have told you, you have to make those decisions for yourself. I mean, if you mess up paying your bills, it's your credit rating and that will hurt you in life. So you've got to be an adult, but you've also got to try to experience life. And I would say that the hardest challenge for a lot of students going to school is finding that balance. It's very difficult for some folks. I know I started university at 17 and I was just happy to escape my childhood and go on campus. And I was a very poor student as a consequence. But I had a great experience. I learned a lot about life and I have no regrets, but I'm wishing you the very best when you get on campus. And I hope that you find that work-life balance and it's something that you can, I think that it sounds like, look, Todd, it sounds like she's pretty steady and I don't think we have to worry about her going on campus. Like she's got it together, but I think, go ahead.
She won't be hanging out at Delta Tau Chi, the Animal House, anytime soon. That's for sure.
Is that the fraternity? I didn't even remember. It's just that movie. But I think it sounds like she's a very balanced person who's going to do well. So, John, I've kind of hogged the airtime here because I'm enjoying the conversation with Gina. It's been very informative. I suppose you may have a question or two. I want to give you a chance to get in here before the program ends.
Well, I'm very impressed, Gina. I really love what you do. I love the fact that you're so young and your mindset is there. And I know there's others like you at your age, and I think it's impressive when it comes to the generational thing and taking criticism from previous generations. Just remind the boomers, they're the ones that created this mess, okay? So...
excuse me.
I'm not a boomer,
no, excuse me. I'm a tween. I'm a boomer / Gen X. I'm the last of the baby boomers.
The Gen X side, I think.
Yeah, maybe, but I take offense to that comment. The boomers built this kind. Anyway, no, but seriously. Anyway,
no, I'll tell you what. You're sitting there listening to elderly people ushering in a lot of this.
Elderly, okay. You're that's a
Listen, we got octogenarians out there talking about putting all of our information out there on the internet. Give me a break.
No, octogenarians. What are you blind? That's a yellow card.
Trump
Gina, do you follow soccer or rugby? That's a yellow card.
Yeah.
Yellow card. I am violating all the rules here, tonight,
John.
but I'm the
wow,
guy
out of
who puts
control.
it out there on this show.
Out of
so-
control.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, no. Well, I'm
Yeah.
wondering, have you got any backers with acceptive corporations? Have you reached out to anybody? Are they backing you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to say in defense for the elders, I think that they've seen the most change in technology from having no computers or internet, all artificial. So, but yes, I actually have had something with Accept so far. I mean, like I said, it's very new, but I've been using help from the American Legion, those who I've met through the Oratorical contest, Mr. Todd being one of them, who've helped me kind of bring this platform to light. And I've been working with Tennessee legislature. I'll be having a meeting with Marsha Blackburn's office this upcoming week and stuff, and I've been contacting people so far in the state to kind of bring awareness. So I'm taking it step by step to try to bring more light to my initiative, but hopefully
It does take a while to build these things. They don't grow overnight. The other thing is do you have the ability to team build? I mean, you got something here, and it's obvious, very important to you, and you've also got some other endeavors coming up that are equally or more important, actually more important, because you need your education more than anything. So have you got the means to build a team, or are you building a team right now so you can keep this going?
I would like to build a team. I know that I met a bunch of people at the national competition for Oratorical that were very interested in the topic, so I'd like to reach out to them. They are very well versed in matters of the Constitution as of doing the Oratorical contests, as well as reaching out to those who are involved in Voice State, Voice Nation, those who are passionate about it. And that's also why I want to take this platform and reach out to those who are passionate about making sure that artificial intelligence and digital technology does not take away from our constitutional rights. So I want to call out to those in the American Legion, other students like me who want to help take this initiative forward, because I think that, like I said, it's such a big issue that we're dealing with today. So I want to reach out to those who maybe know more information about it. Like I said, I'm still trying to learn, I feel like once you start to learn something on AI, it just develops even further, and then
Yep.
It does.
So reaching out to those.
But
Well, Todd, we're going to run out of time here in just a few moments, so I want to give
couple
Gina
minutes.
a chance. Gina, we're going to wrap up here. I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing your Accept program concept with us, and I wish you the very best at Vanderbilt. We'll keep an eye out there. You know, campus can be a dangerous place. Maybe to send down some bodyguards, keep an eye and make sure that you're safe down there on campus. But I'd like to give you the floor for a few moments till we get the rollout here. Anything you'd like to share with folks about, being engaged, not to marriage, folks, but engaged in civics, being engaged and taking part in society, and just maybe a word of encouragement to folks. It sounds like you're on the right step in life.
Yes, I would just like to say that, the most important thing I would say as a young American is being well-informed and a well-informed citizen. And I would like to say that I want to call out to all of those who are passionate about this and to reach out for Accept, because this is something that it's a mission to make sure that our citizens are safe and well informed whenever they're using these digital platforms. And I just want to say that make sure that as a citizen you know your rights, and that you know that when you enter a digital platform you don't lose sight of that. That's the most important thing that I would say. Know that how you are using, make sure that you are using for the right.
We lost the last bit there. I think she was saying make sure it's used for the right reasons. I think is what she said. Yeah. Okay. All right, Todd, you want to close us up here? Thank Gina.
Yeah, Gina, I really appreciate it, and we're going to have you back on for sure. And like you talked about, the American Legion on a regular, any veteran service organization more than willing to be involved, get involved here. Civic organizations just the same. We need your help on this. We're going to support you all the way through the finish line, Gina, and look forward to working with you over the next 4 years of your college career. And who knows where you go from there. We want to have you back on the program as things progress with the Accept for sure. Where can people reach you if you need somebody to reach out to you, email, whatever you feel comfortable sharing? I'm sure AI already knows what it is, though.
Yes, I'm sure. You can reach me at my email. It's Gina Harjani at And I would just like to say, vigilant and be proactive about safeguarding our rights. And thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a privilege to be on here and be able to talk about this issue.
There we
Well,
go.
thanks a
Gina
lot, Gina.
Harjani, national champion, Oratorical, American Legion. We love you. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Colonel?
Yeah, and I was going to say, fascinating surname too. It's from the Indian subcontinent, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm not mistaken, Harjani has to do with people whose families were involved in faith, in Krishna, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you so much. So we'll be back in the next hour. Gina, thank you. Stay tuned, folks. We'll see you in the next hour.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Colorado dentist James Craig found guilty of first-degree murder in the poisoning of his wife, sentenced today to life in prison. Arapahoe County District Attorney Amy Patton calls it justice served.
I hope this conviction and life sentence in prison brings a measure of justice to Angela.
President Trump said today the White House is very busy hammering out trade deals. Friday's the day when the president says they'll take effect for dozens of countries. The Federal Reserve announcing today it's keeping interest rates unchanged. An NTSB hearing today to investigate the collision of an American Airlines jet with a Black Hawk military helicopter that left 67 people dead. Revealed the helicopter pilot never heard a final request from air traffic control to go behind the airliner. Tsunami advisories canceled in Japan and the U.S. Pacific coast, but there were new alerts in South America after one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded struck off the coast of eastern Russia. This is ABC News. In Birmingham, England, a brass band led a procession at Ozzy Osbourne's funeral. Thousands of people turned out to pay the tribute to the rocker who died last week at the age of 76. The funeral procession made a stop at the city's Black Sabbath Bridge and bench, where a memorial has been growing. 2 girls and an adult missing since an explosion at a Nebraska biofuels plant are confirmed dead. Fremont Mayor Joey Spillerberg says that the kids were waiting for an employee to leave work to make a doctor's appointment. The plant makes animal bedding and wood pellets for heating and smoking food. And this sounds like the plot to a superhero origin movie, but workers in South Carolina have found a radioactive wasp nest at a site that used to make key parts for nuclear bombs in the U.S. Officials say there's no danger to anyone because workers sprayed the nest with insect killer, removed it, and disposed of it as radioactive waste. They say no wasps were found. Dave Packer, ABC News.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work, or restorative services. Each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
Welcome back to the program, folks. In the second hour here, we had our first hour. Gina was our guest, talking to us, Gina Harjani, talking to us about her project there called Accept, to get people interested and paying attention to the hazards and dangers of artificial intelligence. Very fascinating. I thought the topic was interesting. And, I wish the very best there, Todd, at Vanderbilt. I hope that it sounds like she's one of those well-adjusted folks, but you always worry when kids go off to college. You never know what you're going to get. You may get the students who do well, and there's some who struggle, others who party too much. But I think she's going to do okay.
Oh, I think so too. She has a good home life, good family, so and plus she's got a lot of people behind her here. Like she's talking about the American Legion. Everybody supports her in the Legion, really appreciate what she's done. I think she'll have a good network for sure.
Does her family have any ties to the Legion or the VFW, or she just competed?
No,
there?
just through the Oratorical competition. And of course, she's had a lot of mentors within the Legion. Former retired Air Force colonel who was also a JAG and a judge in the Air Force, got really involved, helped coach her along the way, and I think gave her some good pointers that help with her own natural abilities, I think.
Well, I didn't want to give her a hard time on the show, but she did say she's interested in law. Ew.
Well, I think we need some good people in law, not just the shyster lawyers that we see, on Fox News or CNN on a regular basis trying to screw us over. I think we need good lawyers.
I think Chris is saying anything worse than a used car salesman as an attorney.
Yeah. No, I'm sure she'll enjoy it, but I'm teasing. No, it's she's decided early on what she wants to do. That's fantastic. I made a plan for myself around the same age and lived that plan and achieved those goals. So I'm glad she's got something in place. And congrats, Vanderbilt is not exactly a place to sneeze about. That's a pretty impressive university.
Right. No, absolutely. And she got a full ride, I believe, for the most part, as far as Vanderbilt's concerned. I mean, very cheap for her to go there, I think, based on what she's done in her life. I mean, you think about how much Vanderbilt costs, or even Notre Dame, for crying out loud. If you try to pay for it out of your pocket, I mean, it would be astronomical.
Guys, not to switch from Gina, fascinating conversation, but what a tough month for celebrities. July has been rough. Ozzy Osbourne has passed. Yep. Hulk Hogan, Malcolm Jamal Warner drowning in his 50s. Chuck Mangione, Ryan Sandberg just passed away. It has been a brutal month.
I think all these folks, so they are up there in age. I mean, they live full, fruitful lives.
Well, not Malcolm Jamal Warner, and Ryan Sandberg was 65.
With the exception of Jamal Warner, who died at a very young age. Yes.
Well, Sandberg had been
65.
Yeah, Major League Baseball All-Star. I mean,
that's still relatively young in today's standards.
Yes, 65, and he was a professional athlete too.
And in the interest of full disclosure, guys, I actually thought that Ozzy Osbourne's been dead for about 30 years. He looked like it.
Oh geez, you just lost half of our audience. Bye, everybody.
Come on. Tell me he did look like he was dead on that reality show.
Okay, so Ozzy, well, he was ill and stuff, but he had I hate to say it this way, but his performance was rather poor because of his health and stuff like that. It was more of a, people just love him. They were there because they loved him more than they were.
No, I wasn't commenting on his musical performance. I'm talking about he did that reality show. The guy looked like he looked like a corpse of 20 years ago. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think he was sick then. He was so sick.
You got it.
He had terrible arthritis, and
but you got to give it to Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, look, I'm not advocating his lifestyle, but the guy did every drug you can imagine. And he somehow managed to stay married to his spouse all these years and then raise his kids, even as strange as they may have turned out.
Right. Absolutely. But in years after he got away from the drugs, after he got kicked out of his first band, went solo, he didn't advocate for drugs. He stopped doing drugs, and he told people not to do them. He's like, this is what you're going to be like if you keep doing these hard drugs, basically.
Well, and in fact, that's the amazing thing. The man got 76 years of life, despite a rather, difficult lifestyle that he had for a while there. But I mean, but Ozzy has passed. I mean, and then Hulk Hogan, I think some people were surprised by that. Maybe not everybody, but he was a relatively young man to die.
Yeah, relatively
Keith
young.
Richards is still living up to his reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
when God showed up, Keith
Keith
Richards was just kind of there.
Keith Richards is too stubborn to die.
Yeah, whenever God
Not
was
wishing
creating the
for it or
universe,
anything, but
Keith just happened to be there. He was like a roommate of God or something. He just, all right, you're going to go down there.
Well, the Malcolm and Jamal Warner thing was kind of sad. You know, that was, I mean, to hear that story.
Yeah.
That was,
54,
I guess he got caught in a riptide and
Yeah,
managed to
and
get out of it or didn't know what to do.
And nobody could get to him.
Yeah, those things pull, man. They pull fast and hard.
Yeah.
You know, you swim north or south if you're, depending on where your ocean is. But I think in Mexico it would be north or south to swim out of a riptide. And
he was in Costa Rica, I think. Yeah, I think he was in Costa Rica.
Oh, you're right. He was in Costa Rica. He wasn't. Yeah.
But I mean, it's the same difference. It's just it's kind of a sad story there. I mean, other folks we talk about. I mean, but gosh, guys, I didn't even think about Chuck Mangione. I didn't realize, I didn't. And then he's just gone. He was an amazing musician, Chuck Mangione.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Remember hearing from the joke about him. He's hanging out at Megalomart, right?
Oh. What was that?
He did the voiceovers.
Yeah, King of the Hill. Yeah,
King of the Hill.
Chuck
Yeah,
Mangione at the Megalomart. Which you're going to reboot that series too, I think, which is going to be kind of interesting. See them in their older age, King of the Hill. How'd they turn out? Hey man, I want to tell you about what I'll tell you about them. Yeah, my buddy. Boomhauer.
You brought up Hulk Hogan, and I don't think I think he was expecting to recover. He did a video and stuff like, yeah, I'm just looking to get out of this hospital and I want to get better. And next thing you know, he was gone.
Yeah, but you got to think. I mean, he did a lot of hard drugs as far as like steroids and other things are concerned, and of course a hard lived life. I mean, wrestling. As many days as he did throughout his life. Probably did other drugs and alcohol along the way, perhaps. It takes a toll on your body. I mean, for sure. I mean, just to be that big and that many steroids. I mean, you're killing your heart.
You're speaking to somebody who grew up in Florida and is vehemently opposed to drugs. I think it's the most disgusting thing people could do in their lives. You get these teenagers running around throwing whatever they want to in their bodies, man. These things are having ill effects on their bodies,
right?
Their bodies in weird ways, and they have no idea about it. Then you get up into your 30s or so, and people that you went to high school are complete total burnouts. You're sitting there talking to them, and it's like 30 seconds till they can respond because they can't process information anymore.
Sure. Oh yeah. Many people like that.
Well, I'm still stuck on all these celebrity deaths this year, guys. I mean, in fact, it's like because we watch things when we grow up and they become part of what we experience. Like, I mean, I was a huge fan, and I have all the seasons on DVD, and I watched on the streaming of Hogan's Heroes. I love that show. And of course, Bob Crane was the first to go when he was murdered in the 1970s. Right. But Robert Clary was the last original cast member. The Frenchman who passed away, I think last year, Robert Clary.
LeBeau, he played LeBeau,
yeah, Corporal LeBeau. But the last, to my knowledge, the last cast member passed away on July 18th, just a short time ago, and that was is it Washington? What's his first name? Kenneth Washington. Yeah, Kenneth Washington was 88 years of age. He joined the cast in the last year and came on the show. Of Hogan's Heroes, but so he would be the last one. And wow, can you imagine that the show started in the 60s and the last cast member just passed away almost in the mid 2020s? It's crazy.
Right, that's wild. Yeah, great show, and the humor holds up in my book. I mean, it's just
it absolutely does. And what's so funny about it, what's I think hilarious, is that for instance, Colonel Klink was a German Jew. Who left the country, very talented actor. He refused to play the role unless they allowed him to play a buffoon. He wanted the Colonel Klink to play a buffoon. Then John Banner, his name was Johann, was an Austrian Jew who played Sergeant Schultz. LeBeau is a French Jew. The show was full of Jews, and it was making fun of the Nazis, of course, who were famous for trying to exterminate the Jews.
Right.
It was just a brilliant show. You couldn't do it today. Maybe today with Trump back in office, but 2 or 3 years ago with Biden and the wokeism, it was just it couldn't be done.
And you think about it, you could honestly insert, let's say it could be a spoof of, say, Saddam Hussein's people, something like that. You could have done it during that time, a spoof of Saddam, and just replace the characters with modern people. It would work.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we lost Connie Francis recently. My goodness, she was 87. She passed away. It's insane. I mean, look, this is the natural part of life. David Gergen died. I didn't even realize that. He passed away, the political analyst. He just passed away.
Oh
83 years of
David
age.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural part of life. People come and go, but a lot of big names that we know have really seemed to pass recently. It's just really surprising. The Australian actor Julian McMahon passed away at the age of 56. He had cancer. He died July 4th. That's I mean, it's just Michael Madsen died this year.
Right.
It's Jimmy Swaggart. Man, it's so many people. It's just look, I don't mean to bring anybody down. I'm just saying that, it's just a lot of big names have gone this year.
It's sudden. It's not like it was spanned out over a long period of time or throughout the year. So there's a lot of people in a sudden short period of time.
But people that are well known. Bobby Sherman just died in June. He was 81. My goodness, didn't realize he was that old.
But you think about it, in the entertainment industry, if you will, sports and entertainment, you grew up with people and you see them as a certain age set, and you don't realize that they're getting old with you at the same time. I remember Hulk Hogan as, the 80s slamming Andre the Giant. I got to see that in person. And to me, he never got older than that, but obviously he did, because I've gotten older.
He kept his physique really well. I mean, he aged, but he kept his physique really well. So he's very identifiable, even up until he died,
Right. Well, and guys, Brian Wilson.
Right.
Beach Boys.
Absolutely. Yeah, got to see him in concert a couple of years ago. I got to see the Beach Boys recently. So it's kind of interesting to see those guys get older. And of course, I think whenever they play, I don't know about their singing so much, but their playing sounds really great. The instruments.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Sly Stone, speaking of playing instruments, Sly Stone passed away. Man, I mean, it's been a tough year for famous names. I mean, people are going, and these folks at all ages, a lot of older folks, but people at all ages. But we still got some very well-known folks that are still out there. Dick Van Dyke is still kicking it. He's 99. That's awesome. And very, very cool guy to see Dick Van Dyke out there. A lot of other famous names out there. Barbara Eden is still out there. She's still floating around. Beautiful lady.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah. She's up there in years too. And Barbara Eden is the epitome of grace. I mean, what a beautiful lady. But I mean, it's just, as you were getting at there, Todd, these are names you grew up with, and you don't really realize that they're getting older. You may realize you're getting older, but you don't realize they're getting older.
Right. I mean, still looking at that old man in the mirror, telling him to move. I'm trying to clean up here. Get out of my way, old man.
I mean, I must have got caught in a gypsum windstorm there, because something turned my hair from strawberry blonde to this gray and silver eagle color here. But no, it's. I mean, look, it's part of life, and it happens to everyone throughout time. But it just seems to me this year it's hit me really hard, and maybe because I'm 59 again this year, maybe that's why it's hit me hard. But watching all these names,
you're stuck on 59, are you?
I'm stuck on 59. I was stuck on 29 once for 11 years. So there's a precedent for this.
For 11 years.
Well, you guys don't know that story. So it's my mother.
Your mom,
So you do know that story. She used to call me up on my birthday. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, no, I got stuck on 29 for 11 years, and I'll probably be stuck on 59 for 11 years. So we'll see how that goes. But no, it's kind of struck me, especially in July. All these names. I mean, Hulk Hogan, Ozzy Osbourne, Connie Francis, just boom, boom, boom. But the one that really was like, wow, Malcolm Jamal Warner, just here today and gone tomorrow. And it just makes you think about how precious life is and how quickly it can disappear.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about getting older. I noticed that we just Todd knew him too. We just lost somebody who was relatively famous in the trucking industry, is Bill Weaver. He was a musician, and he was good. He was a good musician. He was a really great guy. And you look at all these people that have passed through the course of your lifetime, you realize, hey, man, I'm really kind of lucky to still be here. I'm only 56 years old, but relatively speaking, there's a lot of people that have passed before me that I went to school with, So you're right, Chris. You think about that. You give that to some real consideration, And when you're a young buck, you think about, I'm going to go out and tear the world up. You're ready to kick everybody's butt on the street and all sorts of stuff. But when you get older, you're like, no, I respect life better than that. I respect people better than that. Now, I don't want to sit there and fight with people anymore. You start to realize it's too fragile.
Well, yeah, and it's not just that, but the people that have an influence in your life that you don't even realize, you don't think about, like C.W. McCall, Convoy.
Yeah.
I mean, now it was just 3 years ago we were talking about. He's passed 3 years ago, but he was 93. I mean, and I hadn't even thought about him and his name in decades, but that song still was in my head, still influenced me. I still thought about it.
Part of that too is we remember him from the 1970s more than when we seen his physique and stuff. It's back from the 1970s. So we have an imprint in our brain that's what he looks like. We don't realize he's aged. We don't think about him as age, and that's the imprint in our brain.
Well, I think you got a good point there, because I'm still thinking of an Olivia neutron bomb. That's what I'm thinking of. not later in life, but I got to tell you guys, I did go to Shania Twain concert on Saturday night, and that don't impress me much.
It didn't.
No. The concert did impress me. Lady's 59. She's kicking it. She looks like she's 29 out there, which is when she became famous 30 years ago.
Yeah,
30 years ago is when she made it big, around 95 time frame, and she's still out there. And it was a great concert. I heard that people used to complain she lip sync at concerts. Maybe she did, but I'll tell you what, in Hershey Park on Saturday night, she wasn't lip syncing because her voice cracked a couple times, and that's pretty obvious it was live. But it was a fantastic performance, and she was a wonderful performer. Really enjoyed it. And that's the thing too, is so I've gone to, not the last time they do it, but I've gone to concerts to catch musicians just before I never get to see him again. So I caught Barry Manilow in his last tour, but it wasn't his last tour, but he's in his 70s. I caught Van Morrison at the Outlaw Music Festival a couple years ago. He's already in his 70s, and he was still killing it. So I've caught Shania Twain, a bit younger, 59. And then also caught, who's the guy? Peter Frampton. It was his last tour because he has some kind of motor neuron disease, and he wasn't able to play guitar anymore. So he announced it was his last tour, went all the way up to upstate New York to watch that concert. So it seems like, and I caught Hall & Oates before they got in a bickering contest and kind of stopped working together a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And of all places, Philadelphia, which is his hometown for them.
Yeah.
Caught
I got
them
to
in
see them in
Philly.
Hawaii. Yeah, they're great.
Well, I don't know when you saw them, but I saw them in their 70s, and they were still awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
talking about maybe 10 years ago or so.
But I mean, Todd, Hall & Oates are in their 70s, almost 80 years old. I mean, Magnum PI is 80. What's going on?
Yeah. 1980 was a while ago there, Chris. I think about that too sometimes. 45 years ago. Oh, crap, man.
Yeah.
What happened?
Tom Selleck was in his 30s whenever he was playing Magnum, though. Remember?
Yeah, he's 80 now.
I know.
I keep hoping he makes it to 90 so I can do a couple more of those Jesse Stone movies. I love those movies. I watch them like 100 times.
What's funny is if you're into cars and stuff, and they had some awesome cars way back in the day. You go back to the 80s and 90s and stuff, and you don't think about it until somebody says, "Oh yeah, the old classics were pretty good back in the day." And you're like, "Oh crap!" You start looking at new cars, you go, "Yeah, I guess cars really have changed. They've evolved a lot."
And back in the day, they weren't classics. They were just cars. They were just what you drove.
Some of them old 1960s cars, man, the hot rods and stuff, souping them up and lifting them and putting the fat tires on them. And they were something,
Well, I mean, the time goes quickly, guys. My Toyota 4Runner just passed inspection today again, and I still haven't got 100,000 miles on it. It's getting close, though, about 94,000. I bought that in 2004. It's 21 years ago. My goodness. That truck has been all over North America. It has been in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Swaziland, Uganda, Ethiopia, Germany, Austria, Italy, Belgium, France, UK. It's been all over the world, and it's still kicking because they still made trucks properly back then. They made SUVs properly with steel and parts and reliable engines, and it's got a V8 in it. But these days, you try to get a 4Runner, all you can get is a 6-cylinder because of these CAFE standards and trying to reduce emissions and stuff. But I was back in the day before the government intruded in our private lives and forced us to buy dumbed down cars that don't have any mojo behind them. I mean, when I hit that accelerator and that V8, it's like SpaceX, man. Launching off that Boca Chica platform, that thing still goes. Pretty impressive. But all right, enough of that, guys. Hope
is on the horizon because they are talking about rolling back a lot of regulations.
Good
EPA regulations, man. So,
good.
We might actually see some opportunities to get rid of things like DEF fluids and pickup trucks and big trucks.
Gosh, yes.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying the possibility's there.
Well, let's hope so. But that way the down memory lane and talking about people who've left the stage. Let's talk about someone I want to leave the stage, Jerome Powell. The Fed refused to lower interest rates again today. Sorry, there's a gnat flying around in my studio. I'm not going crazy here for the guys watching. I'm just trying to kill this gnat. But,
he's like waving randomly.
Yeah. So when they come for you, Chris, go quietly. No, no. So the Federal Reserve, a person I'm not very fond of, Jerome Powell, they decided not to lower interest rates again today. Do you know that the United States, among major industrialized countries of the world, has almost the worst prime lending rate? at 4.5%. Everyone else is 2% or less. And our economy is still growing like gangbusters. We're still adding jobs despite the tariff threats, despite the interest rates being high. And people don't, I mean, look, unless you're buying a car or a home, most people don't pay attention to it. 4.5% prime lending rate means that most borrowers are going to be 6 or 7% interest because they don't have sterling credit to buy a home. A 6% interest rate for a mortgage is well over $1,000 a month more than one just a point or two lower. It's insane how much money you have to pay back. And I think a lot of people just remain ignorant of that and don't understand it. The Federal Reserve is harming our economy, and Jerome Powell is stubborn. There is growing dissatisfaction, Todd, inside the Federal Reserve system with Jerome Powell, not just Donald Trump. Of course, Donald Trump had his way, Powell would be gone. But his time is almost up, and it seems like he's hell-bent on destroying America's economy and crippling it and making people suffer before he leaves office.
So you make good points, but isn't there, what is it? The FOMC is a committee that has to do analysis and based on the economy and stuff. And as a committee, they make the decision to lower and increase rates. And so Jerome Powell can't just arbitrarily do this on his own.
I think he might be able. I think he does have that power to do it on his own.
I don't believe he can just arbitrarily do it. I think he has to go through the committee. But the question is, can he bring forth the committee, have a meeting on this thing, and do something within 30 days? You know?
Well, the committee does have to vote, but he has the influence, and he won the day, despite the fact there's people on the committee now that are opposed to it, but not enough. So, look, I mean, they bring all the Reserve Bank governors together from all over the country, Kansas City and all the other places they can. And they vote on this. And look, they're harming our economy. And I don't know what their objective is here. Look, I mean, if they hate Trump, fine. Take out a full page banner, take out a billboard, tell everybody you hate Trump. But don't harm the country because, look, we also have something silly going on now, too. We have Canada, Norway, United Kingdom, and France that are going to recognize the terror state of Palestine. They're going to recognize a terrorist-run country because they hate Donald Trump. And that's ridiculous. They're going to upset decades of international relations and diplomacy to recognize a terror state. Why? Because they hate Donald Trump.
It's not clearly that they hate Donald Trump, too. If they're supportive to the political left, they want to make Donald Trump look as bad, the Republican Party look as bad as they can for the next presidential election. Or we got a midterm election coming up here. Next year is going to start campaigns. And if it looks good for the political left or the midterms, then they can tip the scales and the balance in the House and the Senate.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the Republicans are going to lose the House. That's what the media wants us to believe. I have no idea what it looks like on the ground. It's difficult to keep track of 435 congressional races. You have to rely on the media research. They have the people to do that, or you have to be working for a policy organization to know that thing. So I don't even have any feel whatsoever for what's going on. I do know that the Democrats are losing their minds because the Republicans have redistricted in Texas, and they're going to lose 5 seats. But you know what? Nobody lost their mind when the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania illegitimately overturned the redistricting in this state and reverted back to a previous version that cost the Republicans the House of Representatives under Biden. And nobody talks about that. We went from, we had 12 Republican representatives and 6 Democrats, and we went to where it shifted to where we had 9 and 9. So that means that it doesn't sound like much, but we lost 3 Republicans to take it down to 9, and they gained 3 Democrats. That's 6. The entire difference in the House of Representatives in the previous Congress was Pennsylvania alone, the gain of 6 Democratic seats because they went back to a different. And the reason I say it's illegitimate is that this was done during an election year. This was done after the primaries in many states around the country. This was done affecting elections in this state. It was wrong. You have people who are campaigning for congressional seat in districts in Pennsylvania, and the borders were changed after they spent money and resources knocking on doors, raising money, campaigning places. And then a few months before the election, the Supreme Court said, no, you have to go back to what it was 10 years ago. And that's where we're still at. And if it wasn't for that, the Congress would not have been Democrat, and Biden wouldn't have been able to get anything passed because the House would have stopped him at every turn. This is how they steal elections. This is how they steal democracy. Redistricting, gerrymandering is a horrible thing. Texas is doing it now, and they're up in arms. But they weren't up in arms when Pennsylvania overruled a legitimate decision for the district of the state. And now we have these bizarre districts that don't make any sense. My representative went in a district where he was, and it wasn't based on where the voters were, it was based on geography and culture and alignment. That district was formed that way. He went from a district in which he was, 2/3 of the voters were Republican to one in which only about 52% were Republicans. And he's in a tough spot for re-election. And so if he loses, then it's going to be 8 Republicans and we're down now. It's going to be 9. Yeah, we're down to 17 seats, so it's going to be 9 Democrats. But look, it's they're up in arms there, Todd. The Democrats are losing their minds over what's going on in Texas. But when they did it in Maryland, and stole and it reduced the Republicans. It was like 7-6 Democrats, Republicans. They redistricted, one Republican seat left because they gerrymandered. They took people that lived in PG County, Prince George's, Montgomery County that have nothing to do with the people in Western Maryland, and made a little sliver a couple miles wide. They ran up the state along the Potomac River and connected it to the district that had Western Maryland and Frederick in it. And suddenly those people in all of Western Maryland were outnumbered by PG and Montgomery County, and it went Democrat. And that was the last Republican ever served up there. When Democrats do it, it's okay. When Republicans do it, suddenly it's immoral. It's frightening. It's anti-democratic.
Yeah, I would suggest to the folks in Texas, redistrict it and go forward with it. Don't sit there and allow any state Supreme Court or any judge shopping to go on, because eventually this will probably go to the U.S. Supreme Court, I imagine, because the left's going to go out and probably through the left coast and probably file a lawsuit out there, and they'll issue an injunction, I imagine, and then it'll get sent to the Supreme Court at some point. But here's the thing: redistrict, push back, and move on, and hopefully you can get past the next election before they can actually rule on it.
Well, I agree 100% with what you're saying there, but they're seriously up in arms. By the way, John, what you were talking about there with the Federal Open Market Committee, the vote was 9-2. So
so they voted to reduce interest rates, but they're
keeping it in a range of 4.2 to 4.5. So it's that's not a real reduction. They really need to drop this thing. A full basis point is what needs to happen. If they drop the interest rates, first off, the reason they raise interest rates is to control inflation. There's no inflation. The numbers are below 1% annually right now. That's not inflation.
It's a way of regulating the market, right? So if you have got a market that's growing too rapidly and stuff, you increase interest, and to slow it down a little bit, to pump the brakes. If you want to grow the market because it needs to start growing and it's not growing, then you want to lower interest rates to get people interested in investing while the rates are low.
Well, there's lots of knockoffs and spinoffs, this whole thing. But yes, generally speaking, the reason you raise interest rates is to cool down an economy so it doesn't overheat. You don't have rapid inflation. And that's my point. We have no inflation right now. So lowering it 1 basis point is not going to spike inflation. And it will create more credit availability for people who need it to expand businesses, to buy homes, to buy cars, to juice the economy. So look, the Federal Reserve is supposed to be an independent body, but I think they're in the pockets of people who hate this country, to be honest.
More than likely, but the most interesting thing is not everybody follows the Federal Reserve. Credit unions commonly are non-members of the Federal Reserve. You got digital banking, things like that aren't really members of the Federal Reserve. So there are takeoffs. There are things that can happen in this country. But the problem is for some reason, people want to follow that benchmark of the Federal Reserve that keeps the economy stuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not at a loss for it right now. The higher interest rates, the more interest I make off of savings accounts and deposits and things like that. And the economy is growing, so it's not hurting with stock performance. So it doesn't hurt me, but it hurts the economy. So, but guys, when the radical lunatic Islamic fanaticist disguised as a mayoral candidate for New York announced he was running, and then actually won the Democratic primary because Eric Adams stayed out of it, I said on that day, people need to stop freaking out, calm down, because this is going to make it possible for Curtis Sliwa, the founder of the Guardian Angels, running as a Republican, to win the race. And people are like, what do you mean? I said, well, it's basically a 4-man race. So the Democrats are going to split the vote 3 ways between Cuomo and Mondami and Eric Adams. And that will mean that Curtis Sliwa could win this race with 25 to 35% of the vote, maybe 35%. Right. So people scoffed at that. But I see in the Washington Times today, Kerry Pickett, a well-known commentator in the political scene, is saying exactly that. Republican Curtis Sliwa banks on split liberal vote business support to capture New York City's mayor's office. Curtis Sliwa, the founder of the Guardian Angels, protecting citizens back in the dangerous, dark times of the 1970s, could become New York's next mayor. I think that's a fascinating situation, and I hope that I'm right, because I always like being proven right with my predictions. Todd, any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right. But at some point, what's the left going to do? Are they going to play some tricks here? They're going to make a deal. One person drops out, 2 people, and they support the other person. I mean, are they willing to do that? I don't know if some of the people that are on there, like Cuomo as an example, and Eric Adams, are far enough left to support the leftists that won the Democratic nomination. But again, I don't know. They may not like the Republican enough to do something like that. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. It's this time around because he ran before and he got slaughtered by Adams. But his rising poll numbers provide an opportunity to make inroads with New York's affluent business community, which hasn't coalesced behind one candidate and is skittish about Mondami. They're very concerned about him. But being the Republican odd man out, it's an advantage in this year's race with 3 Democrats that are running against each other. So when you slice, in this case, the orange, all three slices on their end are Democrats. So Ram Mamdani is a Democrat, Andrew Cuomo's a Democrat, and obviously Eric Adams is a Democrat. So Sliwa says, I'm the only Republican. It's still a long shot, but who knows? If the vote splits 4 ways, it doesn't take much to win. That's the thing about elections, folks. If it's first past the post, it's first past the post. If you don't have to get 50% to win, you've got a good chance. I mean, if only first past the post was the rule in France, we would have had a conservative in charge of France a long time ago, and this lunatic Emmanuel Macron would not be president. We would have seen actually Marine Le Pen actually run that country. But there you have it.
It's also possible that this race may come down to the 3 Democrats, depending on the base there in New York City, right? So if most people aren't Republican and vote Republican or appreciate Republican, isn't it possible that one of those Democrats can take the lead on that?
Okay, well, I'm not sure where you're going, but let me explain my point here. Okay, the Democrats are in the ascendancy. They have the majority of voters in New York City. It's a left-leaning city, unfortunately.
Yes.
But there are plenty of Republicans in the city. Okay. Probably about 25% of the voters for certain are Republicans. So if there are 3 Democrats and they're running and they each have a support base, and Mamdani's got the radical lunatics and the anti-American people, he's got them. Cuomo's got the old blue blood class who support that political dynasty and think he got railroaded as governor, even though he should be in prison. That's a whole other story. And then Eric Adams is a former cop. He's got support there. He's very unpopular at the moment, but he still can pull 10 to 15% of the base at a minimum. And he's pulling Democratic voters. He's not pulling Republican. So if Mamdani gets 25%, if Cuomo gets 25%, and if Adams takes another 20%, okay, so that's 50, 70%. That leaves 30% on the table. If all the Republicans vote for Sliwa and he picks up a few votes here and there, he's the next mayor.
So he's counting on the undecided votes. So if there are undecided votes on unaffiliated voters.
But the way I slice this, it could go even worse for the Democrats. It could be the Democrats could get 25%, 25%, 25% for 3 candidates, and Sliwa gets 25% plus 1 vote. You see?
Oh, yeah. But I just think it's a long shot because chances are one of these 3 Democrats are going to start picking it up over the other.
Well, and what's going to happen here is going to be a lot of pressure for Eric Adams or Cuomo to drop out of the race, especially on Cuomo to drop out. And there isn't any pressure at the moment on Mamdani to drop out. It doesn't matter anyway. He's a lunatic. They want to steal our cities. I mean, they want to steal New York. They've got this lunatic Somali running in Minneapolis. Who talks about his fealty to Somalia, not to America. This guy's a wackadoodle. So we've got 2 Islamists running to take over 2 of our biggest cities in the country. It's already happened in the UK. Every major city in Europe, in the UK, is run by people who are alien to the country and who form a small minority of the population. Why people vote for these people that hate the country that they're in and run it makes no sense to me. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and a lot of this, and I'll say this, it goes to Republicans and people on the right electing the same old people who play politics as usual, the way we played it for decades, where they get to win, they get to hold power, but they're not really doing anything to counter the left's ascendancy, whether it's through culture, whether it's through civics, whether it's through education or whatever. They're allowing carte blanche, so the left carte blanche to be able to do whatever, while they just continue to fundraise and hold power in their own little fiefdoms, but do nothing to really push back against these types of people. So Republicans and conservatives got to get up and kick some these old hand Republicans out of office and don't elect them in the first place, or else this is kind of what happens.
That's how these Democrats got in there in the first place. I mean, look at AOC. She unseated a 10,000-year-old fossil who'd been in office for decades, and he was unpopular because he wasn't moving with the times, and so she acted like she was erudite. She's anything but erudite. And, of course, but I mean, look, we all know why she won. I mean, come on, guys. We all know.
Everybody wants to date her and everything like that.
That's right. And all the Republicans want to date for, all the clandestine Republicans dated for, hoping to get a date.
But, Chris, you made a statement about you don't understand why these people are getting elected. And the reason why is the term is emotional appeal, right? So you got these people having protests about Palestine and poor pitiful Palestine been picked on all these centuries by the Jews, and all these people support the Jews. And while at the same time they're having this global infidel going on, trying to attack everybody that's an Israel supporter. But they're appealing to people's emotions. These people are buying into it because they're emotional thinkers and they're supporting them.
Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what kind of personality does a person have that has those kind of emotions that supports terrorists and that falls for fake history? There's no Palestine.
Well,
that's the name
just
the
it.
Romans
Yeah,
applied
they
to Judea, Samaria, and provinces occupied by Jews for thousands of years when the Romans just virtually destroyed the Jewish community and the diaspora started. So the Palestinians are simply Arabs who have picked up a name that was given by the Romans, and they act like like the Jews are colonizers. They're the ones that colonized. By the way, if you look at the DNA, these people are almost the same. It's just ridiculous. They need to knock it off. There are over 2 million Arab Palestinians living in Israel who have the rights and privileges of citizenship in Israel. They have Israeli passports. They serve in the Knesset. They serve in the IDF. They serve in the police. They own businesses. They practice their faith as Christians or as Muslims. Some of them are Christian, and they live perfectly fine. And that's the bottom line here. But these radicals who refuse to participate in society and demand things, and then resort to terrorism, and this is what happens. So look, I don't have any empathy for these people because it's historically, factually incorrect, and it's a narrative that is harmful to everyone. No one is served by this nonsense taking place in the Middle East. Under President Trump, we reached the Abraham Accords and got peace broke out all over the Middle East. And Biden squandered all that. Now look what we got. We just back when we had peace in much of the Middle East until Obama became president, and then he encouraged the Arab Spring, which led to the downfall of repressive regimes, which led to slaughter, killings, ISIS, all this nonsense. Trump comes in office. ISIS is wiped out in 4 months. He ends the nonsense, gets the Abraham Accords, gets historic peace, the most historic peace agreement in the history of the Middle East. And then Biden comes back and destroys it all again. Now Trump has got to clean up the mess once again. I feel for Trump. He's like those guys for the mob who come in and clean up the bodies after they kill them all and make it all disappear like it never happened. That's what Trump's doing. He's the cleaner. He's the cleaner.
Right. But that gets blamed for the carnage that caused all the problems, But he's just the guy cleaning it up, He's not the guy who pulled the trigger. He's not the guy who murdered anything like that. But he's going to get the blame for it.
Yeah. Did you guys see that they have given their report on the key takeaways from the air crash that happened on the Potomac with the Black Hawk helicopter and that commercial flight? They're saying that the Black Hawk may have had incorrect altitude data, and that is a contributing factor, and that they never heard the transmission from the tower, that they were on the wrong flight path.
Wow.
I thought that issue about the transmission from the tower that come out at the beginning, didn't it?
What's that?
I had thought that issue about the transmission from the tower that they hadn't heard the transmission, didn't that?
Well, it was speculation, but based on the black box data now, they believe they've confirmed that. So the helicopter altitude readings that rely on barometric pressure were an early focus in the 3-day Transportation Safety Board hearing on this. Yeah, so the safety board said the Black Hawk helicopter was flying higher than the 200-foot altitude ceiling on its route along the Potomac as near the airport. So there's a possibility that what the crew saw was very different than what the true altitude was. Yeah. Now remember, they were traveling at night, and there's a lot of lights along the Potomac, not on the river, obviously, but and they're right next to Bowling Air Force Base. A lot of light coming from there, and then of course on the opposite side you've got Alexandria over there, and you've got the airport and everything. So there's a lot of light distractions. Plus, if you're flying down that path, which I've done, you're looking down the Potomac. There are lots of planes coming at you in the distance, headlights, up in the air. So, what a tragedy. But, initially the Trump administration made comments and alluded to DEI being a problem here. And it appears that may have been a contributing factor. But it also appears now that maybe they had bad information and they didn't realize they were at that high in altitude. But traveling at night, I could see that. If it was daytime, no excuse. You should know in a helicopter where you're at. At nighttime, though, because of the reflection and because, the lights but whatever the case is, I mean, I think it's brain dead, the airspace, the way they manage it over the DC metropolitan area. It's crazy. I mean, Todd, I imagine you've flown in there. I've flown into Nashua many, many times. And it's just, it's crazy because there's so much restricted airspace because of the Capitol building, because of the White House. You just can't fly over that stuff. And it's problematic. What I always found strange is that we had no fighter aircraft, no interceptor aircraft located anywhere near Washington, D.C. throughout the Cold War. We relied on jets at Langley Air Force Base, which is some minutes away from there, down in Virginia. And when 9/11 happened, they had to scramble jets from there. But we have aircraft on strip alert now, pilots that can be in the air in a matter of seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to intercept anything that happens over the nation's capital, which is very reassuring. We didn't have that before 9/11. I think we were living in a fantasy world.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think some of those aircraft were participating in exercise right during that time, and they weren't even armed. A couple of the first aircraft that were on the scene, right? If I remember
Oh yeah,
correctly.
the ones that came up, they're already in the air and they diverted
Right.
up there. But you're right, they had nothing. All they could have done is try to force fly close to them, cause
Right.
an accident, something like that. Hey, so President Trump has been castigated for his reciprocal tariffs and this, that, and the other. But the tariff money's coming in, and then we hear leftists say what consumers are paying for it. But that's not what the stats tell us. Inflation is under control, and the only way inflation remains under control is if the tariffs aren't being passed on to consumers, which was one of my predictions. Depending on the tariffs, the producers may eat part of it, or they may let the wholesalers eat part of it, and everyone along the chain picks up a little piece of the additional cost, and then it isn't pushed on to consumers. And why would they do that? Well, because gaining market share is very expensive. It takes a lot of time and effort to get a piece of the market, and if you've got 25% of a market, you don't want to lose that. And if you suddenly exit the market because of the tariffs, you're not going to get back in for cheap. So Trump has announced another trade deal. This one with South Korea. Yep. And it's going to lower the tariff from 25% to 15%, similar to what he gave to Japan. And so they were desperate to get a deal. So South Korea is going to invest $350 billion in the U.S. and buy $100 billion worth of liquefied natural gas. Wow. Now that's a big deal. That is a big deal. So that's another one. So all he does is win, win, win. There you go. Meanwhile, Trump is laying it on for Brazil, guys. The White House hit Brazil with a 50% tariff and sanctions on a justice minister, or a Supreme Court justice, for his investigations into former President Jair Bolsonaro. So it is not looking. United States on Wednesday made good on its threats to apply 50% tariffs to Brazil 2 days ahead of schedule and slapped sanctions the Supreme Court justice overseeing the criminal case. Now, the reason they slapped sanctions on him is because he is a lawless lunatic who has undermined free speech in this country, threatened Twitter, fined Twitter with all this stuff because Twitter wouldn't cooperate with his illegitimate request to ban speech in Brazil. So they've gone after this judge, Alejandra de Moraes, who's a wackadoodle, and now he's suffering sanctions. So 50% on Brazil. Any thoughts on that one, Todd?
You know what? Hey, you're a wacko. Get your judicial under control. I know we have to get ours under control, but we're not that out of control, for crying out loud. I mean, we're some of the lefties are getting there, but for crying out loud, not like this psychotic guy.
Well, the thing is that if you haven't got toilet paper, folks, you better move quickly, because during the pandemic, we were told we didn't have any toilet paper because it was all coming from Brazil. Well, if it's coming from Brazil, guess what? 50% increase. Somebody's going to eat that cost. 50%.
I still think GMP's manufacturing plenty of it here in the United States.
John, I have no idea where our toilet paper is coming from. I'm just saying that they tried to tell us the reason the prices were so high is because it was coming from Brazil.
They say a lot of things, Chris. They talk about misinformation on social media while they're delivering it all over to the news. I know.
All right, so guys, a topic that I really don't care about, but it's in the news. Ghislaine Maxwell, Justice Department talked to her, and apparently they talked to her about 100 different people. Ooh, going to be a lot of speculation about that. Is it Trump? Is it Clinton? Is it Obama? It's not Obama. He wasn't invited. He and Big Mike weren't allowed to go. But who is the 100 people that Ghislaine Maxwell is telling the Justice Department all of this stuff about? Somebody better make sure that they have a camera on her and someone physically within reach of her.
Yeah, well, have a camera on the other camera in case it goes out, right? Just
exactly.
Sure, right?
That's right.
Well, I saw something today that there wasn't an actual gap in the footage. I don't know if that's true, but I heard a story that there wasn't an actual 1 minute gap. The thing kept recording, and I don't know. Maybe it was deleted.
I never understood that. So their claim is it goes from 1 minute. What is it, from 11:58 or 11:58 to midnight,
and resets
and they say
that
it's
1 minute.
This is the best part. This security system comes from 1999, and back in 1999, this is how the security systems used to operate because they had to reset. It took 60 seconds to reset. Why are you using in a major facility such as this? On
a high value or
prisoner, you're using like 25, 30-year-old equipment. This doesn't make sense. All the billions of dollars we spend every year. You never upgraded the security equipment, and it's a prison facility. Give me a break with that story.
That's a way to get more money, for security upgrades that they can basically take and spend elsewhere. Give us $1 billion to upgrade our security. We'll spend 10% on security. 90% will be spent elsewhere. Wasted.
I think back in 1999, didn't they have like these DVR systems, these recording systems, and so. Maybe that's why I had to reset, but I don't think so. I think it would just overlap, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we have some that'll keep data for so many days, then it will rewrite older data. I don't know if that's what they
Well,
had,
but we
I mean, I
also
don't
have
imagine.
they have the ability to instantaneously upload this to a cloud server and store it there forever. You
Yeah.
know, it's just look. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. This whole Max or Epstein thing is pretty bizarre, but I would keep an eye on Ghislaine Maxwell for her safety. Speaking
Well,
of safety,
I got to
okay.
tell you, nobody's gonna assassinate somebody in 60 seconds. Get all the way down there, hang the guy, and then come running back up in 60 seconds. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
and John fuels the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but regardless, even if he did kill himself, the fact that you had that 1 minute gap, now if you had a video that showed him in there rigging something up and he killed himself, and then there's a 1 minute gap, I could be like, okay, he killed himself. You can clearly see setting up to do it. We didn't quite get the instant moment, but whatever.
So
why don't we have a camera right on that guy's cell? I mean, I'm just saying.
I thought they were supposed to have. They said it malfunctioned, but I think we swept the carpet up from underneath Chris's feet on this one.
Yeah, no, but there's too much to it, and all of a sudden, like this 100 names that he talked about. I get you can't necessarily release names or a list until somebody's investigated, tried, convicted, etc. But the fact that you're saying there's no list, I don't buy that. There has to be
Every
like this
businessman keeps a record, bro. Every businessman,
Right.
legal or not legal, they always keep records. They're gonna know
Now,
who's
regardless
who,
of
how
whether they
much they spent.
participated in anything illegal or not, is beside
And-
the point. There is a list, obviously.
Yeah, and it's just
Even if it's a
ridiculousness
contact
all the
list
way
with his
around.
own personal notes in there,
Right. So there was something. It may have been destroyed. Who knows? Maybe they didn't collect it. I mean, the Biden administration had it for 4 years. They could have destroyed it for all we know. But the fact of the matter is, they had video recordings of all these people because this guy was supposed to be spying on people. If you're spying on people
Right.
and using it for leverage, you got a list.
And there's a few videos that we have seen and some pictures that shows Bill Clinton getting a nice little back rub by some, maybe not a underage girl, but certainly close to underage girl, at like a little airport there, and it's like she's getting a nice shoulder rub, and there's certainly a picture of that, and he doesn't dispute it,
Well, yeah, my intent wasn't to go down this lane. My
No,
point
I know,
was
I
just
know, I
that
know.
there's maybe
We-
100 names being announced. We'll see if what the Justice Department does with that. It should be interesting. But I do want to shift before we run out of time tonight and talk about an unintended consequence of the tariffs, a legitimate concern that people should have. And I'm not here to defend Ford Motor Corporation, but they swung from a profit last year to a loss this year, almost entirely because of the impact of tariffs. Now, Ford Motor Company is fond of saying that the cars are manufactured in America. Maybe true. But guys, the steel and aluminum that they're using, a lot of it comes from overseas, which was hit with tariffs, as well as the parts, which are produced overseas. So until those parts manufacturers are reinstituted here in America, they're going to keep paying tariffs. And they ate the cost of the tariffs. They didn't pass it on to consumers. So Ford went from a $1.8 billion net profit last year to a $29 million loss this year. They lost $800 million for tariffs. And members of Congress, I heard Chris Coons, this wackadoodle Connecticut senator, on television earlier today saying, well, the problem is consumers pay the price. No, Fords are actually cheaper than they were a year ago because you can get the employee discount. So, but still, I mean, that's a huge, maybe we need to carve out an exception for companies like who manufacture things in America, like Ford, for raw materials like steel and aluminum. If you're importing steel and aluminum and it's not available in America and you have to import it to build cars, maybe you get an exception. You don't have to pay the tariffs. Now the parts, I mean, that's on you. I mean, if you're getting your alternators and your spark plugs from Taiwan or from China because you offshored, then you're paying the tariffs. But if you bring it back here and make the stuff here, then you'll be okay. Go ahead, John.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was thinking when you said Ford, because I remember Ford had donated $1 million or something to Trump's inauguration, and I'm thinking, well, there goes that whole thing about the president protecting his buddies that pay his way and stuff. But you're right on the being able to adjust the tariffs. What was the other thing?
but $1 million.
I had one more thing, but I lost it.
But $1 million essentially buys you a meeting or two. That's about it, I think, at this day and age, right?
Right? Can you imagine what Trump makes per minute? If you don't have that kind of funds, you're not getting a meeting, right?
This sounds a lot like Austin Powers. $1 million. Excuse me, Dr. Evil. While you were asleep, there's been inflation. So $1 billion. You know?
Oh, to your point, Chris, Trump was vying for steel manufacturing in the U.S. again. That we need to make it here.
I get that, but I mean, if Nucor and the limited number of steel processors we have are running at full production capacity, applying tariffs to harm the car manufacturers actually making cars in America is counterproductive, is my argument. They maybe make an exception. I mean, because even if you want to increase steel production in America, unless you've got plants that aren't operating at full capacity, you can't do that until a new steel plant is built. You can't build a new steel plant until you get environmental approval, you get a location, you invest a couple $1 billion in capital, and it takes a couple years to build it. So applying a tariff to steel and aluminum while we wait for plants to be built, I mean, Trump could do this. While we lack the capacity, we will give an exemption for those aluminum and that steel if it's used by, to manufacture something here in America. And when that production capacity comes online, then those waivers will be eliminated and you can pay the tariff or you can buy it from Americans. That's a more balanced approach. Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, that we've had this discussion in the back that the president has the flexibilities to do such things. Sometimes it's a matter of tweaking them out, I suppose. Somebody needs to bring it to his attention. Hey, it's detrimental over here.
Yeah. No doubt about that. Well, guys, we're rapidly running out of time here this week, and we had a break there where we actually weren't able to do a show one night, and then Todd wasn't here, I wasn't here, Todd wasn't here, Todd wasn't here, I was here, Todd wasn't here. No, I'm just teasing because I'm the one that usually travels a lot. And in fact, guys, just a heads up for the audience, I will be traveling soon. Once again, I'll be off to the United Kingdom from the 17th of August until around the 18th or 20th of September. So I'll be there. And that's a 5-hour difference. So I'll be able to do at least the first hour many of the times while I'm gone. But I will be overseas covering the Women's Rugby World Cup, which is taking place in England.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say it must be rugby season.
Yeah, I knew it was rugby, but I didn't know, and it's women's rugby. Okay, not.
Do they dress in lingerie like they do here in the United States?
No,
or
it's
they
not.
take it more seriously.
It's not the ladies' lingerie league for football. What was that? That thing was called. I used to watch that in reruns. But no, it's the USA women actually were ranked 4th in the world. I went to the Women's World Cup in Paris in 2014, and then I also went to the Women's World Cup in Ireland 2017. The reason it was 3 years difference is because World Rugby decided that kind of like the Winter and Summer Olympics, you can't have them at the same year, so they offset them. And so they decided to do that. So the women had one in 14, and then they had another one in 17 because the men had one in 18, or excuse me, 19. So every 2 years. So every 2 years you have a World Cup, women and men's. And so this one, the 2017 was in Ireland. That was a pretty amazing one. And the 2021 was in New Zealand. I had tickets, which I purchased, but I was unable to go because they didn't lift their lockdown standards till 3 weeks before that. And they delayed it for a year because they were cowards to 2022. But I also had tickets to go to the Rugby League World Cup, and that was delayed for a year. So the 2021 events were held in 2022, and they ran right into a 2022 event. The Sevens Rugby World Cup was in Cape Town in 2022, and I was going to that. So I couldn't do all three. So I had to drop the Women's World Cup in New Zealand, so I missed that one. So I'll be back for the Women's World Cup here. The USA women in Ireland were 4th in the world. Now they're 9th. They've dropped quite a bit, which is interesting because now the press is in love with one of the players who's not the best player they ever had. They seem to be in love with her. I don't know why. They've had better players. I don't know. Maybe it's racism because the better players were black. They didn't really cover them.
Yeah. Well, so are you going to be covering it as well as just attending as a fan?
Yeah, I do both. I do record the material that I've got from there. I cover it and report on the stuff. I'm actually writing stories for a local newspaper about it, just to introduce people to the game. So, yeah, so that's what I do. And I go to as many games as I can. But the women's is organized a little bit differently than the men's. There's fewer teams. And so the opening game is England versus the United States, and I have a ticket, so I'll be there.
Where are they playing it?
All over the country, as usual. These events take place all over, and this one's weird because I'm in a geographic line running from north to south. Now I go back and forth, but from one game in the north in England down to the south, almost in a straight line. So, whereas the men's World Cups were all over England and a couple of games in Wales. So, yeah, so that's this year, and so I'll be out of the net for a little bit, and then I'll be back. I have another trip up to Idaho later on. But that's a short one, and I don't even think it'll affect a Wednesday. I'm not sure. I check the dates on that, but I'll be here. Yeah. So guys, I don't know if you know this, but I just came back from Alabama. I mentioned earlier, and the reason I was in Alabama is I went down there. CNN flew me down to help facilitate an interview with one of the South African refugees who's living in America now. And I also did a live broadcast with that refugee before their interview with CNN. So that was pretty cool. But I will say this, I could have driven back faster from Alabama than flying back because it took me 13 hours to get home. I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yikes.
What was the holdup down there? Was it?
My initial flight was through Detroit, which was fine with me, but it was 5 delays, and eventually I wasn't going to make it. I would miss my flight and be stuck in Detroit. So they said, take the Atlanta flight. It's leaving shortly. So I jumped in the Atlanta flight at the gate next to it. They changed it up, gave me a good seat, exit row. And then we got on the plane. As soon as we got on the plane, and bad news, folks, there's been a ground stoppage in Atlanta. So we sat on the plane for 3 hours. Couldn't get off. Then they finally took off a 39-minute flight. We got to Atlanta. I got out, and they had to rush because all the flights were delayed because of lightning, I guess. And rushed from one end of the airport to the other with my bum hip right now. Got to the other side of the airport, and then we sat there. And the flight that was supposed to be at 10 o'clock was delayed until 11:30. Then 11:45, then midnight. Then after about 11:15, they came out and said, folks, we have a change. The plane was broken, so we're taking you to the other terminal, which was the place I started when I landed, and it was 2 gates from where I never had to leave if they just, anyway. So then we got over there, and they said, we'll leave at midnight. Then we sat in a plane until 12:45 before we finally took off. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah, well, what an ordeal, but you're here safe and sound.
Yeah, look, I mean, it could be a lot worse. The plane got there, so thankfully but I mean, what are the odds of having 3 broken planes and then 7 delays, in one day? It's pretty sucky. But that's air travel. It sucks. It's unless you got your own plane, John Travolta. I'm envious.
You're probably flying Nick Cage too with the face-off machine.
Oh my goodness, that was a weird movie. Not the best movie.
But I love it when people post pictures of Nick Cage and be like, "Look at John Travolta today," because of the face-off.
yeah.
I love it.
No, I'd much rather watch Corbin Dallas in The Fifth Element.
Yeah,
Lelo Dallas, multipass. Yeah. They know, dear. They know. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. To my co-host, thanks a lot. To our guest, Gina, she was fantastic, telling us about her project. Except, we'll be back with you next week here on the Comment Section Service. Till then, keep your ear to the ground and keep your wheels on the road. Cheers. Bye-bye.